it's Harry Redknapp here. You're listening to a proper podcast. It's the Alan Hudson Podcast. It's proper football, proper talk.
Well, hello again. Welcome to the Alan Hudson Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We got another good guest lined up for you today. But before we get to him, let me just issue a little house reminder. Remember, we're on YouTube, the Alan Hudson Podcast. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast, please do. Just hit the subscribe button and you'll be able to access all our podcasts from the past and the ones we have planned for the future. Today's guest, I remember watching this fella. I think it was 1980. He might correct me. Mark Kenny Dalglish out of the game at Stamford Bridge in a 0-0 draw with Liverpool. And the guest in question is John Sitton. John, welcome. Was it 1980?
Yeah, 79. Yeah, 79. I left in 1980 after a disagreement over my drinking habits. Yeah, no, you're right. There or thereabouts. Yeah, good Liverpool side that was, Tom. Yeah,
it was a terrific Liverpool side, and it was only a 0-0 draw we got that day, but it was a bloody good performance. You and Mickey Nutton at the back.
Yeah, Mickey Nutton, yeah, Graham Wilkins, I think Stridey was left back, and you had Ronnie Harris Screen in the front. He must have gone home and gone to bed 7 o'clock Friday night, Ronnie. He covered every blade. And the odd man never came near him. Soonish never came near him. And Ray Wilkins orchestrating thing. We had a lot of good chances, missed them. Tommy Langley missed a couple, and I think Mickey hit the post from a corner, got up and punched a good header from round about the penalty spot. Yeah, it was unlucky that day. That Liverpool side, I've got to tell you, if they'd have entered the Derby, Wimbledon, the Grand Prix, they'd have won that and all. They won everything. You know what I mean? I think they was reigning European champions. Yeah.
And the madman was in goal.
Say what?
The madman was in goal.
Oh, I remember running up the tunnel. Two things, right? He couldn't talk no English. They had him in an hotel round the corner on the Fulham Road. He's still there. The name's gone out me nut thing because I worked till 3 o'clock this morning.
Peter Barotta.
Yeah. No, Peter. I'm on about the name of the hotel because he drank the gaff dry. He used to do a bottle of scotch a night. He smoked like a chimney. He'd come in every morning. All he knew was, oh, my head. Oh, my head. I said, well, what do you expect if you're doing a bottle of scotch a night? Your head. We run up the tunnel. He turned, this is a true story. Ray Wilkins turned around. He said to me and Mick, because we had only just got in the side. He turned around. He said to me, Sits. He said, be careful. If you get a 50-50 with Soonish, he said, he'll go over the top and try and do you. I distinctly remember that. And the other one was Barotta. We're in the dressing room. He's bouncing the ball, catching it, you know what I mean, had his gloves on, and he went to me, Johnny, like that. I looked up, yes, Pete, he went, no goals, no shots. Oh, that's all right. I goes, you relax. I goes, no shots, no corners, nothing. You relax. I said, just lean against the post and have a cigarette. I said, take it easy. He went, no, serious, no goals, no shots. I went, all right, yeah. So that was it. That was the extent of his communication. And he knocked me out. Someone put Dalglish through. I think it was someone pinged it. Alan Kennedy pinged it. I've got a cross, and just as he's about to pull the trigger, I've come sliding in. To be fair, it's a very well-timed tackle. Put the ball out for a corner, and he's come out because his starting position was wrong. He was too deep on his line. He's come out, slid in, crunch, kneed me right in the temple. It was the same temple that Worthington knocked me out with. He done me with his elbow when I made my full league debut. So I come on half time at home to Coventry. Then my full debut was away at Bolton. Big Frank, I had a little nibble at him, and he turned around and gave me some choice words. And then they hung a ball up to the far post. I'm backtracking backwards, as I've deflected it away, he's gone crash. Yeah.
Well done, Frank.
Yeah, spark out. Yeah. I've never been the same since.
That's my boy, Frankie. But this is going to be we ain't going to be even talking about the Euros. We don't really want to go into the Euros, John, because we've had too much talk about it. And most of it has been a load of... I can't believe that the English have come out in favour of Southgate. He'd done a great job. All right, the best record since '66. But we're going to leave that behind and go into our thoughts on the new England manager.
Right. No problem.
Usually that's your job to say that, Tone, isn't it?
Well, you say it much more eloquently than I do, Alan.
Thank you very much, sir.
So
anyway, Tony.
Yeah, well, let's start off with Alan. I mean, Alan, give us your thoughts first. Where you think the FA should go now that Gareth has gone. There's a lot of names being bandied around, but I know you have a favourite of your own.
Well, the problem we have is going to be the same problem because I don't listen to David Davis, and I've listened to, he talks for the FA and all that, and they're going to go. They want to keep this going in the same way that we've been going against Italy in the last final and the Spaniards in this final. Where they call that progress. Well, for me, it's not progress. It's unbelievable. I love the Van der Vaart, was it, the Tottenham player? Put something in the paper the other day. He said the difference was Spain had Rodri and we had Rice. He made him look like just an average league player, and they had quite a thing about it. But so that's all behind us. The problem is we're going to get the same people along that mould. I mean, Carsley's going to take them into this nationwide league, isn't he?
The Nations League, yeah, it looks like it.
So they set out their stall to go along those lines, and if they were to win it, he'd get the job.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It wouldn't be for me, Tom, because I don't think he's. See, something that profile. One of your biggest, I believe anyway. It's just my personal opinion, and somehow it gets built in. One of your biggest assets as a coach or a manager is your credibility, and I'll be honest. I don't think Carsley's got the credibility. With regards to Southgate, I mean, I think the best you can say about the like Alan's already said, okay, a couple of finals, a semi. Qatar, I said last 8, as expected, we go out. He got out-thought against Croatia in the semis years ago. Never reacted to it. I just think the best you can say about him is okay, the achievement's there, it's on paper, but he was pragmatic. I just don't think we seized the initiative enough, weren't positive enough. Never weren't forward thinking enough, and we were very pragmatic. Sorry, Al, go on.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was saying, John. That we're going to get someone who's going to be along those lines.
Yeah.
But let's kind of turn it on its head and say who we would like to have it. I mean, basically, it was a shame that Terry Venables was very ill before the Euro started, because he would have been the kingpin for I think it was actually before the Italian final, wasn't it? Terry was very poorly.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Shanksy, I was going, why aren't Venables all over the telly? Because that was the big one in this country. It was even more kind of celebrated than the World Cup in many ways.
I totally agree, 100%. With
the song and everything else, and I mean, 66 was, it was a great time as well. Moving into the 70s, it was great in this country. The country was in good shape then.
Yeah.
But that kind of lifted the country more than anything I've ever seen. I was at all the games. I didn't watch all the games. I was in a marquee working with somebody, and but I went to a couple of games, a German game, and it was just electric, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I think the obvious one. I mean, funny, they're both out of Dagenham, aren't they? One took elocution lessons. Sir Alf took the elocution lessons, and Terry never. But I think we're the most penalised regional accent in the United Kingdom. I've always said it, and I just think that with his makeup and the way he carried himself. But if ever anyone had what you might call like a plan, he was positive. He got, it was a cracking squad, good players sprinkled around, got the maximum out of his squad, it was him. And he was very, very tactically innovative. The hearsay, the rumours, the chit-chat around football, which is, it can be as big or as small as, you know, you want it to be. If things get round about people. He was very, very, very highly thought of, and I think he was our best. And he should, like you say, he should have been in the mix somewhere with regards to bringing it through. Listen, I remember. See, I'm in a no-lose situation. I had this brief conversation with Tony on the phone the other. I'm in a no-lose situation, right? Before you come to who you think, first of all, compared to other countries, I don't think we're a country. I think we're a brand. That's the first thing, right? Which might be controversial. Very similar to other young countries, although we're not a young country. I think our history's dissolved. We've got no real playing DNA. We do the flip-flop. You know, one thing we're going to, under Charles Hughes, we're going to go direct, 3 passes or less. I came through in that system. The book was called The Winning Formula, right? Then we're going to try and play like, well, early 70s, as you may know. Well, of course you'll know. When I joined as a schoolboy at Chelsea, they were trying to copy Dave Sexton and Dario Guida were trying to copy the Ajax blueprint. Conversely, Dario was involved when I come through the badges with England. He was going to take the lower age groups along with John Cartwright, right? And they were like at constant loggerheads about what we should be doing in the syllabus, right? Which is the point I want to make. Okay, I'm in a no-lose situation. I actually said in that book that you held up at the podcast, Al, I said that I don't think England will win anything in my lifetime, right? For the simple reason we've got no, it's just my personal opinion, no real set playing DNA. And like I said, from 88 onwards, when I started taking my qualifications, it's a good basis, but it needs enhancing. It needs to be more sophisticated. And the bottom line is, if we go outside, I've been proved right, because they're fundamentally saying there are no English coaches. If we go outside like we did with Capello and before him Ericsson, they're saying there's no English coaches actually good enough on the world scene to take us forward. That's my belief. And what it does, it confirms that you only got to look at the Premier League. You know, the few and far between now, British coaches in the Premier League. Never mind English, British. Even if you throw a broader canvas over it, they're actually saying, I think they're confirming that our coaching syllabus that brings the coaches through, who then should go on to try and achieve something to get recognition to become a Premier League manager, are actually not good enough. That's just my belief.
Alan?
Well, so be it. Then we got the other. They got the other side of the coin, where I'm a great believer in. I was brought up by my father to play the game, to enjoy it to the utmost, embrace it. It is an entertainment. You never ever forget that. It is an entertainment. Tony Waddington was all entertainment. Jock Stein said to his players, for the last word before they went out, these people have been working hard all week. Give them something to cheer. Go and play. Go and let yourself go. Go and play. None of this sideways, backwards, keep it safe, keep it safe, keep it safe. Go and play. You know, it's why 97 remains the greatest World Cup of all time, because of the show Brazil put on in the final when they were doing all that. Can you imagine Southgate being in charge of that? No, silly. But, I mean, that was the epitome of a World Cup final. You know, and England could have done them. That if Ramsey hadn't have put Jeff Hassel on in front of Ozzy, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He put him on in front of Ozzy. I mean, the time was right for Oz. And Bobby Moore said to me one day, he said, "Your mate in Mexico, I've never seen anyone train like it. Never seen him. He's the fittest he's ever been." I remember him coming back from Mexico, disappointed he didn't play, but in great shape, you know. And it was. Managers make or win or lose it. I don't think it's like Venables with Shearer. He said, "Look, you're playing every game," and they give him the massive lift. Well, that's what Alf Ramsey should have done to Osgood in 1970. He couldn't score any more goals in the league and cup that year. He'd run out. You know, he's 40-odd goals and scored in every round of the cup, and he was just on fire.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, if you don't
So
pick him
why
after that, you're never going to.
he's done a Southgate with him, John. He's done a Southgate. He's took him with him and sat him on the bench. I mean, what on earth is why take us? You know.
Yeah, no,
And history keep repeating itself with this fella. You know, it's.
Yeah.
And what I can't get about Southgate, I've come close to meeting him once. I'm glad I never did. I wouldn't like to meet him because I wouldn't like to be rude to him. But how he never learned anything from Venables in '96. He was in the squad. He missed a penalty that time. All right, that's by the by. We all miss penalties. But why didn't he take what Venables had and carried it into this team? And he had the players to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I looked at the squad now and I thought to myself, see, look, you very quickly tying it in, you could see the parallels, what you're saying. I was thinking about it yesterday. So these players that were neglected. So all due respect, right, to not butter you up, but even he said it on an interview. I was watching an old interview, Brian Clough. He mentioned you. He mentioned Osgood. If you had, like, say, yourself, Colin Bell, Alan Ball, Tony Curry. You know, like for me, Bally, the best 1-2 touch player of his era. Always had a pass ready, to razor sharp in the nut. I go back to the Germany game where you played and you and Bally run it. I'm thinking, well, the opposition they would never have touched the ball. You understand what I mean? You could have gone with old Mother Hubbard to the cupboard and had anyone there's a back four. You know what I mean? Because the opposition would never have got the ball. But you go to what you're saying about Venables. He even played a similar thing with the one up front with Kane. Right? Although they did under Terry, they'd done the Christmas tree, like 4-3-2-1. I couldn't understand if he's taking them. Why you don't? Fair enough. You've got to have a more or less settled back four, back five. If they're playing with the three centre backs, back six, you've got your screening midfield players. By the way, he made one forward pass in 90 minutes in one of the games. Rice, one forward pass in 90 minutes. I don't understand why he didn't mix and match it up front and keep the thing in the opposition different problems, keep them guessing, give the team different options, bring on fresh legs, etc. Different playing assets. With people like Watkins and Tony, although not in Aussie's class, Watkins and Tony and Gordon even. I've got a thing come through on me Twitter. Rodney Marsh, he said, Jesus, he said Harry Kane looks like he's towing a caravan, right? Which is, I said Rodney, I said I got Kane for that. I said it in the group stages. You know what I mean? But I just didn't think we were positive enough, and we were like double basic in terms of pragmatic. As you know, Al, the easiest part of the game is defending. You know, yeah. or it should be.
Yeah. But he did, you know. So we kind of lose track of it sometimes. You lose. Look, it's a simple game. We're brought up. It's a simple game. Football is a very easy game. It's complicated in fools. You know,
yeah.
It's made complicated. You know, we were kids in the street and the game was simple. But to go on from there, John, which you covered a great point. But we got 3 names in the hat at the moment. 4 names in the hat, and I'm interested in the Frank Lampard name being mentioned.
You fancy him?
I would think it would suit Frank more than it would suit more than he would suit club football.
Yeah.
What he done at Chelsea, I'm afraid he had to pay the price for falling out with ex-former teammates. And he held his hands up to that. I've seen Frank since, but I haven't spoke about it. But he should never have done it. And there were 2 players that went on to win the Champions League. Barcelona player, Rudiger, and the kid at left back, Alonso. You know, they're good players. You don't fall out with them, even if you don't like them. I had to play at Stoke with people I didn't like, but they get on with it. You got to get on with it, and you know,
yeah, of course.
The dressing room's not all friends, is it? You know, they're everywhere. You know, whoa. You know, dressing room's not an easy place to live.
That's right.
But I think Frank would be the absolute perfect man for this job. He's at the right age. He's at a good age. He's got over his Chelsea failure twice. Forget all the embargoes and all that. Frank was manager. He had two choices not to take the job. He could have stayed with Derby, which he should have, in my eyes, and he should have brought somebody in alongside him. That is what I think. And I think with the England job, he would do quite the opposite of what Southgate has done over the last 8 years. He would bring them young lads on and throw them in.
Yeah,
like the Spaniards did with the little right wing at 16 years of age.
Yeah.
16 years of age. What would Southgate have done to him? He would have crucified the kid. Sit there and watch this. Sit there and watch Rice.
We've done it in previous tournaments, haven't we? Yeah.
But this kid really is exceptional, John. He's Spaniard. He's Spaniard. You know, they're better than us anyway. Technically, they're better. Throughout the ages of football, the foreigners are technically better than the English.
Yeah.
Even in the 60s, forget it. You know, you get the few come through, which the George Best was, you know, in a different planet, but they are technically more gifted than us. And that is why that kid, he pulled one out the top drawer. I was more than delighted because I backed Spain to beat France that night, so it was hallelujah. And I thought, you know, if anyone can do it at 16, if that's not showing the world that there's a place for 16 and 17-year-olds in top football, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
without a doubt.
Well, for kids, you know, and you got kids sitting on the line for 2-3 years, and you know, I don't know how 2 or 3 of them haven't walked away. But going back, I think Frank would really press for the kids. He would obviously use the experience, the likes of yourself at the back, 2 or 3 at the back, 1 in midfield, and bingo. I think you got it. You know, someone to control the kids, and with the experience of that Alan Ball at Wembley that night with me, 1975. I was 23. I've been in the England squad for 5 years, banned for 3 years, but I knew when I got to Wembley that I knew I was going to play that well because I had Alan Ball with me. And I knew what he was going to do, and he knew what I was going to do, and it was heaven, you know. I've never played with Colin Bell, and I doubt if I really would have had the same impact on the game that night if I'd have played with Colin Bell, because he played a totally different role. He's at Nijinsky. Up and down. You've got to, you know, that's why the Spaniards, when they won it, you know, they had the 3 Barcelona kids in midfield. You know, they're like telepathic. I had this at Stoke with Greenham. You get these things, and this is why, you know, when Rams, you know, we've done this in the casino, me, you, and Shanksy with Ramsey, when he said to Alan Ball and Nobby Stiles, "Have you got a dog?" And they both said, "Yeah." He said, "What do you do with a dog when you take it over the park?" He said, "We throw a stick and it gets a stick or a ball, and it comes back and brings it back to us." He said, "Well, that's what you're going to do for Bobby Charlton." And that was great. There's a coaching lesson done.
Yeah.
That's your job. Your job. Okay, Nobby, that's his game, but Baldy had that and more. Baldy could do that, but was exceptional at the other side of the game.
Yeah.
Go on, John.
No, I was just thinking that one of the keys out really is, it's like I said earlier, is DNA. You're talking about the particularly the Barcelona play. You're talking about Yamal, and I think he was 17 when the day before the game he turned 17. I mean, unbelievable talent. But where Frank's concerned, it ain't a bad shout, because he's definitely got the credibility with his playing record, especially like at both levels, Chelsea and international level.
Yeah.
What I didn't understand during his era, why you couldn't get so-called good players, top players to play together, because there was always that debate with him and whether him and Gerrard could play together. But I just didn't get it, because we had like we probably had an embarrassment of riches there with people.
Well, they
like
were, John, I mean, going back to the old days, they were two fantastic goal scorers. I mean, the goals they scored for their clubs, but they were two kind of modern, olden day wing halves, if you like.
Yeah.
Where I was the inside forward, you got to have the inside forwards. Like this Palmer now. He's an inside forward. He ain't a winger. He's just an inside forward. He's got the guile. He's got the grace. He's lovely. I mean, imagine him alongside Bawley and, go on, son. Just give him, on you go, I
didn't understand why I didn't use him more.
That was the biggest mystery of the whole tournament, mate. He's come out of Chelsea absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
Tony and I done a piece, and then Tony put it in the Daily Express. Everybody read it, and they come up to me and said, couldn't agree more. This kid is not only been our best player since he's been here, he's been our saviour, because they were drifting towards relegation.
Yeah.
And this kid has picked them up. He's, and what I loved about him, that really made him for me, was the night they played Manchester City at the Bridge, and they got the penalty in the last minute, and there was chaos. And the VAR, they were arguing, and I think it took about 7 minutes. He stood there with the ball. Second game against his old club, Manchester City.
I'm taking this.
He put it down, and he just rolled it coolly in the corner. I went, yes.
You'll do. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I was the England manager that night, I'd have gone, you're on the sheet for me. Because, there are the games over in Germany, there is playing against Man City. I don't think so.
No. We've got a track record, though, haven't we? A long track record of saying we're only going to take players and put players in the squad and in the team who are fit and on form, and then they do the exact opposite. I mean, go back to South Africa when he took Ledley. I had Ledley as a kid. I had him for a whole year before Spurs nicked him. Right, coached him for a year. Ledley King, and they took him, and he can't play more than one game every 10 days. And you're playing 7 games in 4 weeks. If you get through, you know what I mean. We've got a track record.
John, can I just? Can I just? The Gerrard Lampard conundrum was mentioned there, and you, with your managerial experience, how can I take you back to that era? How would you have handled the Gerrard, Lampard, and also Paul Scholes would have been around in that time? I'm sure Paul Scholes quit the international arena because he didn't. He was almost felt as if he was pushed aside by those two. Yeah. How would you? I mean, surely the England situation is a case of man management rather than coaching, isn't it?
I said it as a young coach, and this is on my grandson's life. I said this as a coach, young coach, and people looked at me like that. And then he said it when he was Villa manager, Gerrard. Right, a lot of football is about distances. Right, a lot to do with football is, in my opinion, is about distances, whether it's you're attacking or defending. Where them three are concerned, it would have been quite easy to coach, whereby not only could they have played together because of their different assets and their different strengths and their magnificent ability, but you'd have worked on it with regards to them taking turns with rotations. The only reason for rotations is to get somebody on the ball. So whether it would have been all three of them were capable of scoring goals. I think Frank had the better record, but you most certainly could have had taken turns with regards to two of them maybe screening the front of the back four, but orchestrating things, and one playing off of the front, which primarily I would think would have been Frank. But the other two could have quite easily played together, because I think Scholes and Gerrard possibly had different ranges of passing. And you had Frank with his goal threat. So for me, it would have been quite easy for him to fit in. And then another good reason for him to be together is for you to go wide, like Spain showed. A lot of the time you have to play narrow. You bring it in narrow. So you bring the opposition in narrow, because conversely, what the opposition did, what you've got to do, you've got to shift in blocks. You've got to go over and you've got to stay narrow. to force the ball. So to go wide, you have to bring the opposition narrow, right? So that if they're the wide man at the time, wherever it would have been, if it had been the fullbacks, I know Ashley Cole was one of them. Fantastic at getting forward. One of the greatest, along with Kenny Sansom. I think probably our best left back in England history. You know, so you bring teams narrow so that you can then go wide. You understand what I mean? So it wouldn't have, for me, it wouldn't have been a problem. But I just think it was to do with the formation, and he couldn't shoe on the other one in, or he, like he did with Ericsson, did with Scholes, he played him out of position wide on the left. When you got people like Zidane saying, this guy, he go, this is the hardest game I've ever had. People like Zidane complimenting him. I mean, it's madness. This is what I mean by DNA. And you know, one minute it's like like winning formula, 3 passes or less. If you look at it statistically, 3 passes or less to score a goal. That was the Charles Hughes thing. You had like people at loggerheads within the FA against him. One of them I know got a big payout, constructive dismissal. And then ironically, after a bit of work in Football League with Charlton and Southampton, he then gets re-employed by the FA. I mean, what goes on there is madness. So that's what I say. I can't lose. I'm in a win-win situation. I've seen what's gone on, not only from a distance as a player, right, during Alan's era, but also from being right inside it from 1988 onwards when I was taking my qualifications. And when I came through and got passed over for a monitor's job, which is why I walked away as a coach educator, right, it carried on that thread whereby they were employing school teachers. People they'd never laced a pair of boots on. A lot I put in my book, they've never laced a pair of boots on in anger. You understand? So you got Scott, you just think, what am I doing here? You understand? If you've got school teachers leapfrogging, you have to take area monitors jobs, which is like right down the pyramid, but you're part of it. Very quickly, then they went with a Klinsmann thing. Within 7 seconds, I want to be in the opposition box. Well, how are you going to do that if you're not direct? It's got to be some crisp passing to go win the ball back on the edge of your own box and go bump, 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 and be in the opposition box. So again, that they went from that, the Charles Hughes thing, the Dutch thing to the Charles Hughes thing, from the Charles Hughes thing to the Germany thing, from the Germany thing to now to the building through the 3/3 with you know, a la Spain or Brazil or whatever. So we keep changing our DNA where the support's concerned. That's just my own thing politically. Never ever think that politics and sport are not intricately interwoven, right? And I look at it now and I just think we're a brand. We're not a country, we're a brand.
Well, somewhere along, we've said it along the way, and it was fresh air when Venables had it for a while. Bobby Robson, they get the interim managers going. Ron Greenwood come in. He picked me once. I had a chat with Ron. You know, you couldn't get better football people. You know, and the way they run their club teams. You know, I just think Frank would be a perfect fit because he's a perfect fit for the FA as well. He's quite the opposite of me. Clean cut. They call him white collar. No,
yeah, clean living white collar boy. Yeah.
You know, it's but he has that other side to him, which he knows about the game, and he's been brought up the hard way. He had hell at West Ham when I was ill coming out of hospital, and I was going and watching him. He was getting hell. They didn't like Frank at West Ham. They didn't want him because they said, "Oh, if it weren't for your dad and your uncle, you wouldn't get games, this, that, and the other." No. I'm sat arguing with people, you know, and as you know, the whole story. I helped get him here, and I said, "Mate," I said to his dad, "if you want him to be a superstar, you got to go to Chelsea." And they were getting all these overseas players coming in at the time. Well, it had to be, didn't it? It had to be. And he would, you know, I see Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank in the scrum the other day.
Yeah.
England coach. What is all that about?
Exactly.
What on earth is all that about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know,
the thing is, Al, they've got to think that, like I said, and all, they've got a staff as big as a UN delegation. You see people there with the laptops and someone else with an iPad and they've got like all right, okay, you should have that. But when I'm looking, I think how comes they can't decipher when you've got all this staff around you? Let's talk very quickly, right? I'm going to mention it very quickly because it's on my nut, right? The Croatia game, right? The semi-final, which I thought was our best chance of winning a trophy with a team and the feel-good factor, the squad, the way they evolved through the tournament, which is another thing I'll come to because the crap I'm reading in the paper, right? But very quickly, they couldn't handle Modric. They couldn't handle Croatia's change of formation. They left it 2v1 against Harry at the back. It's screaming out for someone next to Southgate with their laptops or with their iPads, or the geezer Holland who was at Chelsea, who'd done a bit of work with Dario at Crew, which was where they pulled the set piece out from circa 1980s, the roll, the dink, the knockback, the side foot in. I've seen that a million times. I see it a million times as a kid and a million times in the 80s. You know what I mean? But what they done is they came to the Croatia's front three, 2 dropped in, and they created a 6v4, sometimes 7v4 overload in midfield and passed us to death. Why didn't anyone on the side with their laptops and with their flip charts and with their iPads, why didn't they see that and say to Gareth Southgate, let's put someone on up front to help Harry. That will pin one of them back, one more of them back. Let's push him into midfield to even it up. So we've occupied 3 defenders plus the goalkeeper 4. Then what we can do, we'll get the overload, right? By pushing maybe Kyle Walker in to play as an advanced fullback, and on the other side, whoever's on the other side. No one recognised it. No one does it. Bang, Bob's your uncle. We get knocked out. Then the other thing that stuck in my nut, this crap I've read in the paper, right, about evolving through. I don't know how you feel about it, but this is how I feel about it because it's probably the only way I could play, right? Bit different to yourself. But when they're going on about evolving through the tournament and reaching a peak at the right time, it's the biggest load of codswallop I've ever heard in my life, right? You look at Spain, 7 out of 7. Right, that's more in sync with my psyche. You reach your peak every time you walk up the tunnel, and that's when you should be at your peak as you're going up the tunnel, ready to kick off and be on fire for 90 plus minutes. You understand? That's when you should be at your peak. Every time you go up the tunnel is when you should be you can't pick and choose when you're at your peak. You can't say we're evolving through the tournament and we're going to reach our peak. And we're reaching our peak.
In ordinary layman's terms, in my way of looking at it, is the way I used to play. I always want my next performance to be my best ever. Basically, that's all you're saying, and that is all you want to do. You get your standards. And then once you get your standards, that ain't enough. You got to go above that, and I think we've mentioned Alan Ball, and that was his greatest strength, was wherever he went, whatever he done. Teddy Sheringham, these kind of people. Their mindset when they walked out was, I'm going to play better than I did last week. Now, if every player had that mindset in your team, your job as a manager is hunky-dory.
Yeah, it's easy. You just...
But you got to have them players with a mindset.
Yeah.
Not the backwards, sideways, backwards and sideways. That doesn't work.
I understand being patient. I fully understand the concept of being patient. But
more so these days, you got to be patient. But these teams come down and they got 10 men back, and they're not easy to break down.
That's right.
But there are ways to do it. Yeah. There are ways to do it.
Oh, we know that. But the thing is, I don't understand. You can condition the players when you do your sessions to look forward first, but be patient if it's not on. Maybe he did. We'll never know because you don't know what.
Do you actually have to tell a player to look forward?
Well, you've only got to look at Palmer. You shouldn't, should you? You only got to look at the impact he caused. When they was going on the telly about not threatening the back, right? We never had it. Harry couldn't threaten. He ain't got the pace. I've always said it, right? I know Harry's family. I know his dad very well, and they're going on about Pochettino in some of the media. A, no, because he's Argentinian, they hate us, right? B, his biggest asset, according to Harry's dad, is he's an absolute gentleman, and he makes everybody feel important and everybody feel good. I said, all I want to know is, he had 5 years at Spurs. You should want to know is, can he coach a winning team, a team to win something, not whether he acknowledges Harry's brother as he comes through the barrier. And he leaves his coaching staff to greet him and make him feel important. Yeah, that's fair enough. You know, to me, that's just being a nice person, a polite, courteous person. What I want to know is, can he do the job on the thing on the training field? But when very quickly, when you look at people coming on like Palmer, the point I was going to make was, they were talking about that we had no one with any pace to threaten the back, no one with any legs to threaten the back, to stretch teams that way. So Tony, you know, you stretch teams widthways, you stretch teams lengthways to get on a bigger pitch, right? We had no one to threaten the back, like Rodney Marsh said about Harry looks like he's towing a caravan, and I just said, Rodney, I said that in the group stages, I got hammered for it, right? But when Palmer came on, right, I said, what can happen is, because I'm being interactive with people on Twitter during the course of the games. What can happen is someone can make people threaten the back just with the pass that he sees, and for me, that's what Palmer did when he came on, right? Someone's sort of going to bend their running. Palmer would go, it'd go cut it across him, and then it'd thread it. It would go and get on the end of that. That's making someone threaten the back. You understand? And that's picking up on Alan's point about, you know, should you need someone to tell you when to recognise when you can pass forward and when you can't? Of course you shouldn't. But I thought the only one who was really proactive, or maybe two at times, Foden and Palmer. You know what I mean? I thought we scraped through. There was a few disappointing tournaments, and I don't know where they got the hype from. I thought for me, the only one who never put a foot wrong the whole tournament was Stones, by and large. But that's maybe I'm being biased as an ex-centre back.
You are.
I've heard this said a lot of times during the Euros, that we didn't have any pace up front. But surely Saka's got pace. But the problem with Saka, to me, I mean, feel free to disagree, but for me, he was a winger who never took his fullback on. Every time he got the ball, he was looking inside and looking behind him to keep the ball. But he's got pace. He's a winger. He's got skills. Why wasn't he entrusted to take his fullback on when he got the ball?
Yeah, I agree, because that's one of the ways you can stretch the game. Even if the fullback's an unbelievable like a really cracking, pacey defender, and he gets low and jockeys you, like I was talking earlier about Ashley Cole. I remember the 1v1s he had on against Argentina's most dangerous forward back in one of the World Cups under Ericsson, might have been 2006. He marked him out of the game. Ashley had blistering pace. Kenny Sansom, another one, right? Like their build, their stat, you know what I mean? Even if the guy defends you well, when you don't get round him, you've automatically stretched the game by trying to take him on the outside. You understand? So you've pushed the opposition, because they've got to shuffle back. You've got to backpedal to cover him. They might get like what they did with the guy Williams on the thing. What he'd done, I think it was for Holland. Well, it might have been for Spain. No, it was for Spain. And what he did, he tried to get back in and double up on him. Right? So if they double up on Saka, that means you've got an overload elsewhere, which is why he turned the ball out. But he turned it out too early. He turned the ball out too early. He should have threatened the back, tried to take him on the outside to push him back, because the rest of the back four, back five have automatically got to shuffle back and cover the fullback, or be prepared for the cross coming in. So I agree with you. It didn't go on the outside enough, and within 2 touches he turned it and then rolled it back to Kyle Walker or inside to Declan Rice, who went sideways again. That's when you got like your man sitting there, right, and your ball. As the ball comes inside, they've already seen a little ball round the corner into the front man. You understand? And this is what he did when he got on Cole Palmer. He did it a lot, and I don't think we had enough of that. And then you're looking up front when you're talking about the pace. That's when you're looking for quick feet. When the ball goes round the corner, you're looking like the guy you mentioned earlier. He was a nightmare, Dalglish. He didn't have a lot of pace, but luckily for me. But if you did get too tight, he'd roll you. He'd get his body in, and he'd roll you. We didn't try any of these things. The only ones for me who tried anything like that was, like I say, was Foden and Palmer.
Well, that was an explanation, John.
Yeah, we were. Oh, you know me. I think I'll go.
I know, yeah, I know.
As I raise one point, another one comes up.
I know, but so
Are they coming for you? Are they coming for you? Them sirens, are they coming for you again?
I've had them, mate. I've had them. Been and gone. Been and gone. It's the straight jacket, isn't it?
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear.
So how do it, Alan?
Al, what's your response to what John just said?
I think it's an easy way out for a player to, they double team wingers and all that. They make sure they get people back. But, you've seen wingers change over the years. You see this, it's all down to common sense. You have wingers change over. England haven't really. The first real winger they've had with any real since John Barnes, this is the best winger they've had. And the only thing I can say about Alf Ramsey that I really liked about Alf Ramsey is that when your England squad got together, he said, I want you to play exactly the way that you play for your club. Well, that's what we wanted from Saka. And he didn't do it.
No, that's right.
He comes inside a lot with Arsenal, but what England didn't do, part of what you're talking about, they'll have people go past him. And he's got a great inside forward at Arsenal that makes him a better player because Odegaard, who plays for Arsenal, is always there to get them little balls in, their little dinks in, your Modric, what you mentioned, and people like that. We have none of them players that can do that. Not even Palmer. Palmer's a different type of player. He gets it in his own way, but he wouldn't get in them little pockets. And I think that's Saka ended up going square. The other fellow went, but Bellingham, we weren't going to go into this, but Bellingham goes missing. He should have been. He was the one we were pinning all our hopes on in the beginning. Everything was around Bellingham on it, and he never produced what he did for Real Madrid because it was easier playing for Real Madrid than it is playing for England because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that was a problem. Bellingham had such a good, and he couldn't work out why. He had about 10 minutes in one game, and he thought, well, he's going to take over this game, and out he went. They went back to normal, England basics. Well, I don't really think. The reason we had this, done this podcast, John, I really don't think. I think Eddie Howe's a good shout, but he won't leave Newcastle.
I'll be honest. That was the name I was going to put up because I think he does play enterprise and attacking football. He tries.
Well, absolutely. His record at Bournemouth and Newcastle has been superb. Yeah. Potter at Brighton was fabulous. What he done at Chelsea, you got to forgive anyone that goes to Chelsea and failed. I think they've all got. I think all the managers have had although half of them have taken a job for the wrong reasons. Most of the managers that have taken the England job recently have done it for money and nothing else.
Yeah, the Chelsea job, you mean?
Yeah, because they haven't questioned the owners. They haven't questioned the backroom staff. I want to do it my way.
I couldn't agree more.
If you're going to get the sack doing it your way, not their way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, let them do it themselves.
I've said exactly the same out to people that have asked about it, be it the goings on behind the scenes, and I've said exactly the same, not almost verbatim, word for word, what you said. They've taken it for the wrong reasons. They've taken it for the thing. They know they're going to get the big compo payout at the end of it. What I also said, very going off the point ever so slightly with regards to England, what I also said was whoever he's employing as an advisor or the firm of agents that got round him with some of the mercenaries he's bought, I just said he shouldn't be doing business with him anymore because he's had his pants pulled down. He's been rumped big time. You know what I mean? It's nearly £1 billion in transfers, nearly £1 billion in transfer, or whatever.
Well, we're very lucky that he don't run the national team.
Yeah, Yeah.
You know, I don't know. He can't be any worse than the FA. Let's be fair. They're there to blame for everything. They're the problem we have. The FA are the problem behind everything. They were forced into giving Venables a job. They were forced into get the public got Bobby Robson a job. It was a great pick, great choice. And I think Frank Lampard is an outstanding candidate at this moment. I really do. Yeah. I really do. I think he's got, you know, I think he's like players. I always said that people don't understand. When I talk to people in pubs or if I'm out there, I said, you don't understand. There's two types of footballers. One's a club player and one's an international. One can be good at a club, put him in the international, don't see him. All right, these fellas got 60, 70 caps, 80 caps. And not, I could pick 25, 30 of them, 40 of them who had their debuts. How comes I've had a debut like that against West Germany? And the manager hated me.
Yeah, we know.
Because I done it with Alan Ball. But why haven't they? They never had a match like that when in their 60, 70, 80 caps. And they keep getting picked. They keep getting picked because they're doing it their way. They're doing it that way. It's nice. I've been on them trips with Keegan and all them, and they're all their little groups, and you know, the same firm every week. They got the card table waiting on the buses and all that. You know that. Oh, I don't want to. So I'm the outcast there. They don't want to. You know.
Yeah, because
being a Chelsea boy as well. You know, you don't want to get into that. But I think. With that insight, I think Frank would be I really do feel Frank would be, and the reason I think he could be in there really hot for them is he is one of them. All the time Frank spent at Chelsea, every manager that came in, he said he's doing a good job.
Oh, well, that's after battle his image, Al. After battle his image.
Well, he, you know, if you're gonna get Frank Lampard who scores goals just in his sleep, you know England are not going to go out and start passing it sideways. He's going to get someone. He's going to have coaching sessions where he's going to get 2 or 3 of them, and he's going to show them, you know, because he can still do it, and he'll show them. Shoot.
I had a sneaky feeling with the Eddie Howe thing. That maybe the Newcastle geezer was trying to bump up the compensation because I don't think Newcastle or anywhere else, modern football now, modern management now, I don't think anything's long term. And what the geezer's piped up, I forgot his name, which is remiss of me, but he piped up and said that he's part of our. We're going places with Eddie, paraphrasing obviously, but he's part of our long term future. I think he was trying to bump up the compensation if the FA do come in for him. Yeah, so that's another factor that's got to be taken into it. Another one is who can handle the pressure. So you've got this, the other geezer Potter, got the degree in emotional intelligence. What I want to know, Tone, right? Where's the pressure? When they're going on about pressure, Allardyce mentioned pressure. He's had 8 years of pressure when they interviewed him after Southgate walked, right? Let me ask you this. I don't quite see the pressure. You're building up to 90 minutes and 90 minutes of expectation. Which, by the way, he called it arrogant and entitled, Southgate. I don't think it is arrogant and entitled to expect you to beat Colombia and to expect you to beat Slovakia and Slovenia. I don't think it's entitled. I think as a major football nation, we should be beating them, by the way. That's not arrogant and entitled to me. And you know, I mean, I'm someone said I'm a cab driver. They said someone jokingly said about starting a campaign for me to get the job. So he said, well, it'd be all right if to take him around London. I said, let me tell you something. I wouldn't have got done tactically like he did against Croatia. I wouldn't have put pressure.
Don't get the hump, John.
It ain't a case of getting the hump. It's a case of what's right is right. You either know the game or you don't.
Well,
right? So the bottom line is I wouldn't have put pressure on a kid to take a penalty and brought on people who were cold to take penalties, and we had three of them missed against Italy, right? And then Qatar, I said there was no surprises to me there, the last 8. Answer me this question. Where's the pressure right, in the equivalent of 12 games a season. He's been there for 8 years. He's managed 100 games. Forget the odd 4, right? Let's say 8 12 to 96, right? That's the equivalent of a dozen games a season. When they're
to put it in a nutshell, Mr. Sitton,
it's the greatest job on the planet.
In a nutshell, it doesn't matter whether if you're Manchester United, if you're Derby County, you're Stoke City, if you're the England manager, the only pressure you have is the pressure you bring on yourself.
That's right. Yeah.
If you got the players, he's gone out there with all the players. We know the players. Some we won't agree on who we like most. I don't agree with certain things. Yeah, there were 6 players, including Grealish and Maddison, who were left out. And I thought, well, what's all that about? You just take it. Probably because he didn't want him on the bench with him, I suppose. But they're the kind of players, you say, like Venables, like the Dutch did, like Waddington did, go out and play. Let's go out and beat this mob. There's 11 of them, there's 11 of us. You can play. You proved it. Go and do it. Don't tell them not to do anything. Tell them to go and play. The only pressure in any job is the pressure you put on yourself. If you can't do it, don't take it.
Yeah. I'll agree.
But if you can do it, don't start blaming pressures, because there ain't no pressure. As we used to say, John, or they still say, pressure's in the dog queue.
Yeah, I'm into that. Yeah. I said what you said on social media, by the way, as soon as it happened. What's that about? I said, when I see the friendly, surely he's got to go. Even if it's just for like the little give and goes he plays, and as he does it, he clears the space. Maddison, the Grealish we know about, and he's just had another good season, successful season with City. You know what I mean? So they're proven winners as well as unbelievable ability. So it's like a mindset. You know what I mean? It's like a mental state. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And but anyway, the thing with regards to what I was saying to the geezer, and in reply, I don't get the pressure of 12 games a season. Not only that, the creme de la creme. Supposedly that you got the creme de la creme to work with, right? So where's the pressure in that? Where's the pressure in 12 games a season compared to 40 odd in the Premier League and a couple of cups? And if you're City,
I don't know why anyone could come up with anything so stupid.
Well, that's what he said. That's what he said. Allardyce. He's had pressure.
Well, he's who knows what he would have done.
Yeah.
We'd have seen the Bolton plan, wouldn't we? But anyway, we're nearly out of time, Tony. Are we?
We are. I mean, ultimately, I think when I look back,
someone was late coming on this morning.
Some of us have to work for a living. What's he like, the geezer, isn't he? He's been a playboy for 50 years.
Who's that? Who, you?
Well, listen, it's great to hear you two knocking about and going backwards and forwards with your different opinions. That's what I always liked about the Football Uncensored podcast. You two and Don, it was a great combination. And I'd like to do this again if you're up for it, John.
That's no problem, Tom. Yeah, I'm always happy to talk to Lord Hudson. Don't worry about that. He was one of them when I was a kid, but he'd already left when I used to go there.
Good job we weren't there together.
No, it was a shame. But I just used to.
Just as you're gonna knock one forward, I'll come back and nick it off your toe.
Kiss it here. Give us it here at the feet. But listen, it must have been a doddle for Demps. Webby and Demps, which was my predecessors.
I'm thinking about your 1-2s with you and Mickey Droy playing 1-2s.
Let me tell you, Mickey, that's if you could get him fingered. Never mind about me getting out of bed. Mickey was like, he was never happier than when he had a towel round him, a mug of tea and a Rothmans. Mickey.
Oh, and a sporting life.
And sporting life.
Yeah.
Big Michael.
Anyway, John, great, mate.
Lovely, lovely to see you again. Glad
it's great to have the other side of the coaching thing. I know we have this thing about it, but for our viewers, really interesting. It doesn't really bother me. I think, what is he talking about? You know.
No, but you know, like, as you want. Listen, if you're coaching, you want. So if you had strong personalities,
I don't like coaches, John.
I know you don't. I know you don't. But if you had if you had a strong personality like yourself, challenging you, right? With the experience I got now, which obviously I didn't then, I was a baby, but you just go, all right, okay, I'm going to leave you to it. Let's try it your way. I'll trust you, right? And let you get on with it. You understand what I mean? That's what you learn as you go. Because and then when you make it happen, you just go, okay, I've done now. I know I can trust you, and I'll leave you to it.
Let me tell you a quick story about coaches. This is something to do with coaches. When I left Chelsea the second time, went to Stoke, they were bottom of the league. They were 13, 14 points adrift of the second team at Christmas. They were going down. They hadn't scored in 3 successive games. They hadn't had 2 wins in a row. And I went there on a month's loan. So I had a month to do so. And my legs were going, and I wasn't the player I went there first time. And I got there, and after the training session, Sammy McElroy said to me, that's the most I've enjoyed a game for as a 5-a-side. I said, well, that's how we're going to play. And we played Arsenal in our first game, the team I had left to go to Seattle. And I said to Foxy, in the dressing room, we'd all come in. I said, we're not kicking out of the field tomorrow. I said, no, that bouncing it 3 or 4 times. I said, coming straight back. I said, why do you think you're 14 points adrift? Roll it out. Roll it out to Peter Hampton, left back. Roll it out to me. If I'm not on, roll it out to him, and I'll get it off him. And then we'll get it into the forwards. And then slowly, we knock it forward. Then we all push up. And next thing you know, we've got out of relegation. We beat Liverpool. We have more points from Christmas to May than Liverpool got, and they won the league. And that's how we beat Liverpool. And that was only just pure common sense, because the coaches would have allowed them to keep doing that. All right, let's accept relegation. We're going down.
Well, it ain't just that, Al. I think it's also something that England didn't have, personality.
Well, they got people in midfield that talk a lot and that make actions and all that, but that ain't what it's all about, is it? As I told you, Bobby Moore, come on, when he played for England, he showed it with just being there. Alan Ball, it's they taught, and the most annoying about all this European thing, and I'm glad this is our last show on it. They're all good players when talking to the media. What we're going to do and what we ain't going to do. I've never been in such great form, and oh my God. And then you go, well, what happened? Harry should have been ashamed of himself. Harry, being the captain of England, should have left himself out, because he was burnt out.
He was
gone.
Yeah.
He was gone.
Agree.
From first game, he'd had a long, hard season. He'd carried an injury. He should have turned round and said, look, go through the group stages on your own. Let me rest. You should get through. You will get through. He didn't do anything to contribute getting through anyway. Yeah. He should have left himself out. And that was bad captaincy.
What you're saying about the media, he had a saying when I was a kid. I remember turning up for an Easter school holiday very quickly, like a coaching clinic, after the pros had left. He just left the club. The thing of what had gone on was legendary, Tom. And the row, like rows on the thing between Dave and Ozzy. But he had a saying very quickly. He used to say, Dave Sexton used to say, if you said to him, he'd go, don't tell me, show me. Yeah. So with regards to the media training and the media thing, that would have been, I think, very, very appropriate. Don't tell me, show me.
And it goes back to what you just said about personality as well, John.
I think, Tom, yeah.
Because those players that are in the squad and were in the team in Germany, you can't question their personality when they play for their clubs. And suddenly they become players without any personality at all when they play for England. Why is that?
Different level. Yeah. It's a different level. You're up a notch.
Up another notch, yeah.
You're up a notch.
There's
Anyway,
loads of ingredients. Loads of ingredients.
Good you're back on the show anyway, John. You're back on the plot. We'll get together.
No worries, Al. No
All
worries.
right, mate.
Be lovely.
Brilliant.
Well done, Tone.
Thanks, Al.
We're running late. We're running late.
He's off to the pub now, John.
Sunday lunch.
Surprise, surprise.
There's a shock.